All right, so today we're going deep on some pretty thought-provoking ideas about how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And not just like in the mirror, right?
Really?
But like on a deeper level. And we're looking at the work of Ron W Rathbun.
Oh, interesting guy.
Yeah, he's, some people call him like a modern-day Stoic.
Hmm.
His work is all about this idea of like physical seeing versus spiritual seeing. Have you ever like thought about the different ways that we see ourselves?
I mean, yeah, I think about it all the time, but like, what's his take? What does he say?
Well, he basically says that most of us, we go through life and we're just focused on the physical stuff, right? Like our bodies, how we look, what we sense with our five senses.
That's definitely how I see myself.
Yeah, and even like how other people see us, right?
Yeah.
They are judgments and opinions. And he says that's all part of what he calls physical seeing.
Interesting, but it's kind of like, isn't that all we have? I mean, you see what's in front of you.
Right. Well, that's exactly what Rathbun challenges. He says it's actually super limiting to only see ourselves physically. He even uses this analogy. He's like, to see yourself physically is to try and see a reflection in a pool of muddy water.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like you just can't get a clear image.
Can't see anything.
Exactly. So then the question becomes like, how do we clear up that muddy water? How do we get a better reflection?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, that's where this idea of spiritual seeing comes in.
Ooh.
I know. But just stick with me. So Rathbun describes spiritual seeing as like seeing through this light of awareness.
Light of awareness. Okay.
It's about going beyond just those five senses and those external judgments.
So like deeper than just what you can see and hear and touch.
Exactly. And he says it's how we connect with our true selves, like who we really are at our core.
All right, I'm intrigued. So if our physical reflection is like looking in that muddy pool, like you said,
Yeah.
what's our spiritual reflection like? Like, how do we even see ourselves in that realm?
Well, Rathbun has this really interesting quote. He says, spiritual seeing is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. So it's not about our physical appearance or what other people think. It's all about our own internal sense of self-worth.
So basically, like, if you feel good about yourself, that's how you look spiritually.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty radical, right?
It is.
But Rathbun doesn't stop there. He also gets into this whole other concept of the soul versus the spirit.
Okay, now this I'm really curious about. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, so he defines the soul as like our identity in this particular lifetime.
Okay.
So all our experiences, our memories, our personality, all that stuff shapes our soul.
Makes sense.
But the spirit is something totally different. He says it transcends the physical body. Like it's this eternal essence of who we are.
Oh.
Yeah, and he says it's what connects us to something much bigger than ourselves, like a universal consciousness or something.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah,
So, like, we're carrying around both a soul and a spirit.
that's what he's saying. And he says the problem is that most of us, we're just living through our soul, and we're not really tapping into the power of our spirit.
That makes sense. Like, I get caught up in the day-to-day stuff all the time. It's easy to forget about the big picture.
Exactly. And Rathbun argues that when we neglect our spirit, we're missing out on a huge part of ourselves. He's like, imagine having this amazing tool in your toolbox, but you never use it.
Yeah, what a waste.
Right. And that's basically what he thinks we're doing with our spirits.
So how do we, like, get that spiritual toolbox open and start using those tools?
Well, he suggests that connecting with our spirit helps us access a deeper level of wisdom and insight. And it's like, suddenly we understand ourselves and the world around us in a whole new way.
That sounds amazing. So, like, how do we do that? How do we actually connect with our spirit?
Okay, so this is where it gets even more interesting. Rathbun introduces this idea of two minds, the personal mind and the spiritual mind.
Okay, two minds. All right, I'm following.
So the personal mind is kind of like our everyday mind, right?
Yeah.
It's the one focused on our individual needs and desires, all the practical stuff of life.
Like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or how do I get this project done? That kind of thing.
Exactly. But then there's the spiritual mind, which operates on a whole other level.
Okay.
It's about connecting to something larger than ourselves, tapping into universal truths, and feeling a sense of interconnectedness with everything.
Whoa. Okay, that sounds pretty profound.
Right. But the question is like, how do these two minds interact? Can we bridge the gap between them while we're still in our physical bodies?
Yeah, good question.
Well, Rathbun proposes this practice called Kelee meditation.
Kelee meditation.
It's this technique that he says helps connect what he calls the lesser Kelee, which is associated with the head or the personal mind, to the greater Kelee, which is connected to the heart and the spiritual mind.
So it's like bridging those two minds together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he believes that this kind of meditation can help us connect our everyday experiences with our spiritual nature.
It's like opening a doorway to a whole new way of seeing, right?
Exactly. And it's all about recognizing that we're not just physical beings, but spiritual beings having this human experience.
I love that.
So we've covered a lot of ground here today.
Yeah, yeah.
We talked about the difference between physical and spiritual seeing,
Right.
the roles of the soul and the spirit,
Uh-huh.
and even the concept of these two minds working within us.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
But it makes you think, like if our spiritual reflection is really just about how we feel about ourselves,
Yeah.
then how can we create a more positive, more authentic self-image?
That's a great question to consider.
Definitely something to think about.
Food for thought.
Definitely.
Thanks for diving deep with me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Until next time.